where it gets tough. I gotta be calm right here.
Here's where it gets tough. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
A lot of wood.
A lot of wood? That's 5 for 5. Boom.
My next guest with me here is Shea Sprague. Shea was recently drafted 2024 by the Boston Red Sox, 13th round, left-handed pitcher. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Donovan. Thanks for having me. Excited.
I got to ask something a little serious off the bat. M&Ms or Reese's Pieces?
Reese's Pieces, without a doubt.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I think the peanut
M&Ms are really good, though.
Peanut butter M&Ms are good. They're pretty big. You know, you don't get 20 in the package. I feel like you get like 10 in there. But the Pieces, you know, you still get the full effect. They're basically like an M&M, but you're getting the.
You get a million of them too.
You get a million of them, and you can pretend you're ET. You can pretend you're a kid. You know, the whole Reese's Piece thing. Remember ET? So what's going on down there, man? I was fortunate enough to meet up with Shay about a week, well, not even a week ago, when I was down in Florida. A few of the guys, we did a little bit of trivia, and we had a good time. Very chill, laid back, man. You guys just seem to be having the time of your lives there. How's everything been going with the training and with the team? Is this everything that you expected, being drafted by an MLB team?
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's funny when people ask me, like, how's it going every day? I just say I'm living the dream because it's awesome. Like we were saying earlier, just spring training, so laid back. And especially this being my first year, it's pretty cool just interacting with some of the big leaguers a little bit and just crossing paths and seeing what they do. So it's been awesome.
A lot of the guys, that leads me to a good segue, a lot of the guys that I've been talking to and just, spring training, whether it be the quote big leaguers or not, there's a lot to learn. And it's not only, you guys all know how to pitch. You know what I'm saying? Like you have your way, they have their way. In a few years, there's going to be some young kid looking at Shea Sprague saying, I got to get something from this guy. But are you like a sponge when you're there, man? Do you try to absorb any little thing you can from the guys who have been, if you get the chance to interact with them, guys who have been pitching, say 5, 6, 7 years, do you just try to absorb everything you can?
But yeah, 100%. I think talking to a lot of the older guys, even in the minor leagues, it's awesome. Just very insightful hearing about stories in Salem and Greenville and all these different places. You definitely try and take in as much as you can and learn from them because obviously they've been there and they've been through some of the different stops. So I think it's really important to hear what they have to say and take a tip or two along the way from conversation to conversation.
Some pro tips, man, some pro tools. I think the smartest guys, I think the guys that are actually going to make it are the guys that are going to be like the sponges, that are going to be willing to take in whatever they can. And while we were over there and we saw you, I don't know if you noticed, if you had walked away yet, Trevor Story was hanging out over there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my son looked over and he's like, Dad, it's Trevor Story, and I said, nah, D, it can't be because so he was over there and I went over, hey, what's up, T? I got his number and he said he's going to come on the show. Just an awesome guy. And bro, 20 minutes later, he was in the game. So we went over and we walked in and, the whole point was to kind of go and see you guys and mix it up there. So we just got some lawn seats and it was fantastic, dude. We were just back on the lawn, it was like a picnic. My wife's laying out, the kids are running.
Oh, it's great.
And T Story, now batting number 3, Trevor Story. It was 20 minutes ago, man. He must have stopped what he was doing and ran over. And spring training, right? It was wild.
It's crazy. I actually have a good story for that too. One day we were watching the game and me and my buddy were throwing. It was Crochet's second or third start in spring training, so we went to go watch. So we watched and they rolled out a really good lineup that day. And then we went back in, and as we were leaving, walking through the weight room, and Jaron Duran was playing center field 10 minutes prior, and then we walk in the weight room and he's getting his curls in and his lunges and all that, and we were like, dang, a quick turnaround from center field to the weight room.
Yeah, and even for you guys, it's still got to be a little awe-inspiring, right? To see the guys who have had so much success so early. Those are the type of guys, man. I would have to walk over and just pick his brain and be like, hey, man, give me any little tip that you can, and you don't want to bug him and things like that. But again, you always have to look at it, Shay. In a couple of years, somebody's going to be there looking at you that way, bro.
Yeah, totally.
Nobody's going to say, oh, no, I'm busy right now. Same clubhouse he is. I think some of those guys, and correct me if I'm wrong, they probably like the less hustle and bustle, right? They probably go over to that other facility just so they can be left alone. Does that make sense? Or just,
yeah.
So, you know what I mean? So they can just go and not have to deal with hey, this guy, or, because especially spring training, there's probably a lot of one of the security guards' sister's cousin is a huge fan. Can you sign this shirt for me or something? You know what I mean?
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure that happens. I know on the backfield, some of some of the guys will come back and just get some at bats. I'm sure they're working on something or just like want to keep getting better, see some live arms. So that's pretty cool too.
How is it for you when, little kids are running up and saying, "Hey man, can I get your autograph?" I mean, think about it. You were at Elon and then you're at, North Carolina, and now
Definitely.
you're in a position where even my little boys, were excited to get Shea Sprague's autograph. What does that feel like, man? I mean, how are you taking that in?
It's awesome. I mean, like you hinted at, I was one of those kids not too long ago. And
Right.
So I think it's important to just, because you were in those shoes once, take a second out of your day, maybe make their day. So.
And that's exactly what it does. It makes your day, and you don't even realize, what you're doing for a kid. Maybe, he's having a rough day, or maybe the kid's going through something. And baseball, I have found, man, and I interview everybody from every sport, but you guys just have the most chill energy, man. Like you can meet some other sports with guys where, they kind of don't want to be bothered. But baseball, man, I think it's never too far separated from, hey, I was just one of those kids like you just mentioned. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
Like you were the kid collecting baseball cards probably 6, 7 years, 8 years ago, like.
Oh, I was a huge baseball card guy.
Were you really?
Oh, massive. I mean, I had this conversation with someone else when I was in middle school. I got like really into it.
Yeah.
And I could give you the top 100 prospects like the back of my hand.
Okay.
When I was in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, because I just love the baseball cards. And yeah, like you said, I mean, I think there's something to be said too, but I feel like baseball is a pretty laid back game to begin with.
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna get it in every sport.
Right. That's funny.
When you got into cards, do you still have some of them? Like, I mean, was it something that did you do a fire sale and get rid of them all, or did you keep some? Or
I got rid of a lot of them, but I'm sure. I mean, in my bedroom, I had so many that I'll just find them like laying around in like my desk in my room or something like that.
So I looked up some of your stats and your numbers, man, when you were with North Carolina, or maybe it was a crossover. Did you transfer? I don't think transfer portal was a thing there. Tell me your story a little bit about how you went from one to the other, one school to the other.
So obviously I played my first 2 years at Elon, had some success, and then.
Is that the 1.89 ERA that I saw? Was that Elon?
Yeah, I think. I think that was my freshman year.
Yeah, you were like 57th in the country, or in the first. It was crazy good numbers, man.
Yeah, thank you. So I was there for 2 years, and then going into my junior year, my sophomore year, we had a lot of seniors, and originally I thought everyone was just going to come back, and then that summer going into my junior year, we lost a lot of guys. So then I was like, oh man, maybe it's time to look somewhere else, and obviously landed on my feet, took a visit to UNC and loved it. Not too far from Elon. It was all like 45 minutes. So last fall I was back there a lot too. But yeah, I mean, very fortunate for my times at both schools.
Yeah.
Learned a lot at both places. And then obviously last year UNC was awesome.
Yeah. And what's not to love about UNC, man, from the,
I know.
I'm sure there's some decent eye candy down at UNC, and it's
no doubt about that,
right? Probably a cool little place to party and stuff. How do you kind of deal with that? Being a younger guy who's successful, there is kind of that cliche of big man on campus, right? Anybody who knows the ball players, whether it's basketball, football, whatever it is, for a big school like that, you got to deal with a lot of pressures, right? This guy wants you to go to this party, or this guy wants you to do this, or you know what I mean? How did you stay focused on baseball? I know it's hard. How did you deal with that kind of thing? Just staying focused on baseball.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think I know you have to know your priorities and like keeping the main thing, right? Like you obviously can't let your social life get in the way of baseball, but I obviously think there needs to be a healthy mix in my opinion, and pick and choose your spots when you want to have some fun. But obviously, like you said, you can't let your social life bleed or interfere with what you're trying to accomplish on the diamond.
It's actually a great answer, because I do believe in moderation. You know what I'm saying? I think that, you can't be that guy who's sticking, grinding to the books and to baseball to the point where you burn out, or the people around you don't want to be around you. You can't cross that line too much either, where you're out till 2 a.m. and you got a wicked hangover when you got to pitch the next day, right? But a lot of younger kids, though, man, they can't figure that out. I mean, how many brilliant athletes have you seen in your young life that have kind of blown it?
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, there's a million examples of that, and I think, especially being a freshman in college, I think there's definitely a learning curve, especially that fall. But fortunately enough, I had some good leaders around me at Elon to kind of teach me the way and like show me that you can have fun and have a good time and all that, and be social, and also get your work in and keep getting better at baseball. I think I was just fortunate and learned from some good dudes.
Was there any part of you at all that felt like you were kind of letting Elon down or betraying them when you left?
I think to an extent there is a little bit of like are people going to question my loyalty and all that stuff? But then obviously you go through that, and like I remember talking to my roommates, and they were like, "Dude, like, you're going to go play at UNC and compete for a national championship. Like, if you think we're going to hold that against you, I mean, you're crazy." You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I mean,
those are good friends, though. Those are good people
totally.
to make you feel that way. You know what I'm saying?
Totally. And they were looking out for me, and they knew it was best for me in my career. And those are still some of my best friends to this day. It was funny. We played our first midweek at UNC. We played Elon. So it was cool catching up with them, talking to all the coaches.
And it wasn't a weird thing. It wasn't an animosity thing of like, oh yeah, look at this guy, right? It was like, hey, what's up?
No, 100%. I was even down here in the fall. I was my travel ball team was down here from New England, and the Elon assistant coach was recruiting a kid. I sat there and talked to Huff for probably an hour, and then he was like, "You mind shooting this kid a text?" Because he was up from New Hampshire, kind of my neck of the woods. I was like, "Yeah, 100%." Told him about Elon and all that. So there's no hard feelings at all. I still root for them.
And that's so sweet, though, that you're that kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, that you're that dude now that's sending a text to this kid. Hey, yo, listen, I was drafted by the Sox, and this is what Elon can bring to, this is what they can do for you.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's kind awesome. Of a really good feeling too, man, just to be able to kind of put that endorsement, that stamp on it,
Right.
And I guess we deal with that with all aspects of life. Think about when you were younger playing travel ball. And, when you'd go to a better team, right? Like a Premier League or something, and you've got to say goodbye to all the kids who might not be at that level yet.
Right.
Think about that. Like, you go back and it's kind of the same thing. They might be mad or whatever. Well, okay, great. I'm going to better my career, Yeah,
100%. I think if obviously they care about you and if they're good people, they'll completely understand if it's the right thing for you.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a dude that went to Elon, and I was looking this up before I popped on with you. Joe Winklesass. Have you ever heard that name?
I have not.
He played MLB. He's from Buffalo. Born Friday, 1973. And now I got to get this cat on. He was 25 years old when he broke into the major leagues with the Atlanta Braves, my team. I had never heard of him in my life.
Oh, that's awesome.
And, and I was looking at all of this kind of who came from Elon, and Joe Winklesass. It sounds like a fake name, but now that I know Winklesass is from Buffalo, he's going to be coming on.
He's representing. That's awesome.
He's representing, man. And it's cool too. Today, Creighton. I don't know if you saw, Creighton was playing Louisville.
Yeah.
Alan Radone is from Creighton, and this other pitcher that I have on next week, he's the first and only pitcher still, Pat Venditti.
Yeah, the switch pitcher.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if you and I spoke about this briefly, but, he's from Creighton as well. So I texted him today, like, it's just cool kind of having the stuff. But this guy threw right-handed and left-handed, and they actually created a rule for this guy in particular, like just this dude created a rule that you have to say, before the batter comes up, you have to say whether you're going to, which, what do you think of that, man? I think that's kind of unfair. Like, I mean, that's crazy. He's the only dude in the world to do it. He should be able to pitch however he wants.
It's crazy. The Mariners took a kid in the first round last year, I think. I'm going to butcher his name, but I think it's like Gerangelo Ciente or something like that. Okay. He's like 95, 96 from the right, and then he'll be 92, 93 from the left.
So he could do it too. It's an ambidextrous pitching. I've never even heard of that, man.
That is just, I don't even know. That's got to be God-given to an extent, right? Like,
that's just, yeah. I mean, you like, listen, I've seen you throw with your left, okay? And I can throw with my right pretty decent, but did you ever, now I go to grab my left, man, it's like, right?
Oh, yeah.
I look like a toddler.
Yeah, exactly. It's insane. Yeah, I mean, I give credit to those guys. That's just wildly impressive.
Shay goes from a 95-mile-an-hour cutter with his left to a 47-mile-an-hour.
Yeah, seriously.
50 Cent throwing the first pitch out type thing. Right?
Loop ball from the right.
Did you ever see him throw that first pitch out?
Oh, yeah. That was the Mets, right?
Yeah. Well, like, what are we doing? What, 50? What are we doing, man? I mean,
you think he would have practiced beforehand? I guess not.
Well, you think, first of all, that guy would be a little athletic. He's all jacked up, man. And
right.
Listen, I got no beef with 50, man. I'm not starting any beef with 50. I'm just saying, it was one of the worst I've seen ever.
Okay.
Yeah. So did you get, you still don't know where you're starting yet, or did they tell you?
No, we still haven't found out yet.
That's so crazy, man. That it's literally could be a day or two before, right?
Yeah. And then I think it's not this upcoming Saturday, the Saturday after is when we leave and we all break for the affiliates.
You know, we left from your facility and my wife looked at me and she said, "Those kids got it." She's like, those kids, there's something about this Red Sox draft class, even with the guys, maybe there was one or two that were drafted in 23, but like B. Clark, Tolley, Connolly, you know, not only the fact that you guys are just cool as hell, you know, Connolly met me right there on the, you know, when I was walking in and I was giving us a little tour and whatnot. And but it's not just that angle of it, man. It's just, you can sense something special, right? There's an intuition there. There's an energy. And I was over and I, like I said, man, and I went to the Tigers and there was some Phillies guys there. And in speaking with a couple of the Tigers and a couple of the Phillies, like, you know, you think, and I don't want this to come across the wrong way or to sound like a total jerk, but you almost feel like, okay, this is going to be a double or triple A ball player forever. And listen,
Right.
it's that if that's his path, there's nothing wrong with that, man. I mean, it's still everyone's dream to get drafted, but there's something special about what the Sox did in the last, again, 23, 24 draft classes where just, you guys got it, man. You know, you got that, or you got everybody in the world fooled. But it's not only the personalities, like watching you guys pitch, man. Like you and B. Clark with the lefties. You know, you guys just have some sick stuff, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely. BC's a machine. I watched him. I bat-boyed his game today.
Okay.
He probably struck out 4, but we had a little iPad in the dugout, and it's 99, 100, 100. Yeah. Sweeper at 84, strike out. His stuff is electric.
It is. And then you see, I think he pitched in that prospects game, and his ERA is 20.73 because there was a couple of bloops that should have been fielded. You know what I mean?
Right.
I was talking to Connolly about it because Connolly had a little bit of a better outing, you know, when he started to pitch 3 innings, whatever. But B. Clark, you know, Connolly's that ground ball out guy, you know, where B. Clark's more the electric guy. And I feel like you're kind of a combo of the two.
Yeah.
You're more of you're a consistent, what would you say, maybe 6 to 8K a game type consistent guy, right? But
yeah.
You know what I mean?
I won't punch out the world, but I'll get some outs.
You'll get the outs.
BC will probably strike out 75% of the batters he faces.
You know, and Tolley, a big dude, man. Oh. That guy, you know, seeing him up in person, he's a big dude.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Right? That guy's ripped somebody's head off, man.
He's a monster.
Yeah. But a gentle giant, just again, cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah, very down to earth, super funny, great guy.
I can't stress enough, you know, that I just have this feeling, you know, that you guys are all going to be playing ball, and you know, on that same lawn, I won't drag this out too long, man, a little bit longer, but on that same lawn, I was looking at Deacon and I said, D, go peek around into the bullpen. You know, the Braves were on one side, and so he walked over to the Braves. I said, no, walk over to the Red Sox side. And he did. And he goes, well, we're Braves fans. And I said, doesn't matter. I said, look at that bullpen and look where those guys are. They're about to go in. I said, those guys we were just talking to, as soon as next year or the year after, will be in that bullpen.
Totally.
100% for spring training, 100%, you know. And then as it goes, right, the guys who are going to start kind of weeding out and the guys who are, let me ask you this question, man. The longevity pitchers, right? Because listen, there's nothing wrong with being a middle reliever. There's nothing wrong with being anything in baseball at all. The longevity pitchers, how do you kind of mentally say, okay, you know, this is, because I would assume you want to be a starting pitcher in Major League Baseball.
100%.
You know, and I guess a reliever is not the sexiest position, right? Guys can play 18, 22 years, make $1 million a year, and still somebody doesn't know who they are, right? So it's not the sexiest position, whatever. It's not like it's a bad position to be in, you know, but how do you kind of mentally train yourself and again, the wording might not be perfect here, but to not be that or fall into that. Like, you know, like I want to, you know, constantly like, I want to pitch, I want to start, I want to be that guy.
Yeah, I think a big thing in just the game of baseball in general and along those lines is like not riding the emotional roller coaster, and like you could have a great outing, but then it's just back to work, got to do it again next week, or you could have the worst outing ever and you're like, all right, I got to flush it, go on to the next one. So I think it's really just that constant pursuit of getting better and just keeping your head down no matter what the results are, really. And I think that'll do you well, and especially trying to throw more innings. You could even look at that from an inning-to-inning basis of I gave up a 3-run shot last inning, but let's go get 3 outs and go let the offense go to work.
Does it scare you at all to think about, you know, throwing the arm out, or TJ, you know, when you see Duff and Colt, you know, you see those guys walking
out?
with RoboCop arm,
Right.
does it scare you?
I don't think scare is the right word. I think it's honestly just a reality of the way the game's going and how it's real, like a very velocity driven league now. And that's really the main separator of, say, a double A guy and a triple A guy. I think actually I'd probably say command is a more differentiator from there. But even to get
I
to
don't
those
know. I
higher
don't know, man,
levels,
because I know exactly where you're going with it. And I think it's because you were saying it right. It's about having the command with the velocity. You know what I'm saying?
yes, right, exactly.
Because obviously 99 and 50 Cent style isn't going to work. But
Totally.
but you guys are trying to throw so hard because you know that's when it's going to, it's going to get you to the next level. I know what you meant there 100%. I don't like that it's that velocity driven, dude. I mean, I truly don't. Obviously, yeah, you go to a ball game, you want to watch Paul Skeens throw 102 miles an hour and throw 20 strikes.
Mm-hmm.
That's just fun to watch. Chris Sale, man, that day was lights out in those couple innings we were watching, He's fun to watch. But I'd rather see somebody like you have a 22-year career, than a 3-year career because you're trying to throw out of your arm.
Totally. And I think that's just how the game's moving. I think a lot of the people who are a lot smarter than I am, and again, a new change in the game is the whole analytics and model-based decision making, and I think velocity just is really valued in that. And obviously, if you throw a fastball at 90 and fastball at 100 is just naturally going to be harder to hit for a hitter.
Yeah.
So I think that is just, I agree with you, especially in my case, not being the hardest throwing guy, not throwing 100, but I think that's
what are you about? What are you about 90, 93-ish, 95?
I'll be like, I'll settle in at like 90, 92.
Okay.
Ish.
Yeah. Again, if you find a way to make that look 99, spin ratio and all this stuff, man.
Yeah, that plays.
You're right.
No doubt. Especially in the show, you take that.
Yeah, dude. Like, yeah. So
right. I think there is, again, like you said, there is still the art, if you will, of pitching is definitely not dead. And I'm a big I appreciate when dudes can go in and out with the fastball, change speeds with the slider, bird change up and all that, and get guys out that way. But yeah, I definitely don't think it's dead. There's definitely some cats up in the show that really get it done. I mean, Kershaw, for example, he's still doing it.
That curve is just, I've still never seen anything like it. Just
devastating.
It kind of goes in cycles too. Baseball is one of those things that goes in cycles. So there'll be a couple years, and then it'll be mechanics again, and then in a couple years you might see somebody throwing knuckles again. Because those are fun to watch too. The knuckleball, Charlie. And I don't think anyone throws one right now. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't think there's an active player or an active knuckleballer.
Wakefield and Charlie Hupp, and it's a lost art, and it's
totally.
You ever try hitting a knuckle? You can't hit a knuckleball, dude. You can't hit that thing.
You can't catch a knuckleball. I mean, never mind trying to hit it. The catcher doesn't know where it's going. So I mean,
yeah.
No, it's a good knuckleball, especially Tim Wakefield. He was a legend. It's really satisfying to watching it dive everywhere.
This was cool, man. This was a lot of fun. Like I said, I really enjoyed talking to you, man. And I'll talk to you real soon, man. Have a great finish to the spring, and we'll keep in touch.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
All right, man. Take care, man. Bye.
Bye.